Penamaan untuk mahasiswa MRA boleh namanya adalah MRA, tahun angkatan, lalu lengkap. Untuk di luar MRA boleh instansi dan nama. Terima kasih. Untuk para hadirin yang telah hadir, bisa menyalakan kamera jika tidak ada kendala jaringan, dan untuk mematikan mikrofon jika tidak diperlukan, dan bisa menggunakan virtual background yang telah dibagikan. Untuk penamaan boleh untuk mahasiswa MRA 20 atau 2021 dengan nama lengkap, dan untuk yang di luar atau eksternal bisa menggunakan instansi underscore nama. Baik, terima kasih kepada para hadirin yang telah hadir. Sebelum saya mulai, Sekali lagi kepada para hadirin untuk menggunakan virtual background jika bisa digunakan, dan untuk yang bisa menyalakan kamera dimohon untuk menyalakan kamera, dan dimohon untuk mematikan mikrofon jika tidak diperlukan. Baik, akan saya mulai. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan selamat bergabung dalam Zoom meeting pada hari Kamis tanggal 28 April tahun 2022. Selamat datang di Kuliah Umum Inbound dengan topik Introduction to Electronic Document and Records Management System Digital Era. Baik, sebelumnya perkenalkan, nama saya Jihan Unika yang akan membantu kuliah umum kali ini dengan narasumber sekaligus moderator hingga akhir perkuliahan. Sebelumnya, kepada para peserta untuk mengganti namanya untuk mahasiswa MRA menggunakan MRA tahun angkatan dan juga nama lengkap, dan untuk eksternal untuk menggunakan instansi dan nama lengkap. Baiklah, selama beberapa jam ke depan, sekiranya akan disebutkan dengan beberapa segmen perkuliahan yang penuh insight, di antaranya adalah pembacaan CV speaker. Selain itu tentunya akan mendapatkan ilmu yang luar biasa dari penjabaran materi oleh narasumber pada kuliah umum ini, yaitu dari Miss Pauline, yang akan dibimbing oleh Bu Wit selaku moderator pada kuliah umum kali ini. Terima kasih banyak kepada para hadirin sekalian yang telah menyempatkan hadir pada kuliah umum pada hari ini. Dan sebelum masuk ke sesi materi, dimohon ketika materi berlangsung, saya ingatkan kembali kepada para hadirin agar dapat menyalakan kamera jika tidak ada kendala pada jaringan internet, dan dimohon mematikan mikrofon jika tidak diperlukan. Dan diingatkan selama penjabaran materi berlangsung, dimohon para hadirin untuk bertanya, dan pertanyaan bisa langsung dikirim pada kolom chat Zoom atau di kolom chat live streaming YouTube. Dan setelah pembahasan materi akan dibacakan pertanyaan yang akan dipandu oleh Bu Wiwit pada sesi tanya jawab. Untuk presensi akan dibagikan sebelum sesi dokumentasi di akhir perkuliahan. Baiklah, langsung saja untuk membuka kuliah umum pada pagi hari ini, pada Pak Hardika Widusatria, apakah sudah hadir?
Ya, halo.
Baik, kepada Pak Hardika Widusatria selaku Sekretaris Departemen Sosial Humaniora Terapan, waktu dan tempatnya saya persilahkan untuk membuka kuliah umum.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih banyak, MC. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to everyone. Also, hello to Miss Pauline Joseph, PhD. Nice to meet you. We are so grateful for having you today. We are here gathering today in Zoom to hear and gain some insightful knowledge of public lecture from Miss Pauline Joseph, PhD, live from Australia. In this occasion, Miss Pauline will deliver a very interesting topic of lecture, I think, which is the introduction to electronic document and records management system in digital era. I think students also should put a tremendous focus on this topic, since this is the very basic knowledge a student must have in the area of electronic document and records management system. Furthermore, I believe this knowledge will equip or shaping the framework of our student later in the internship phase. To our student, please do not lose your focus this time. Yeah. Okay. Now, I think that's all for me. Without further ado, on behalf of Vocational Education Program, Universitas Indonesia, I wish this public lecture would expand the horizon knowledge of the student throughout a fruitful discussion. Also, I am keen in the future to have a delightful collaboration between our lecturers or institution with Miss Pauline Joseph or maybe VOTAR partners and other Australian academicians. That's all. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a nice day, everyone.
Baik, terima kasih atas sambutannya kepada Pak Hardika. Selanjutnya adalah pembacaan CV speaker kuliah umum, yaitu Miss Pauline Joseph yang akan dipandu oleh saya sendiri. Hello, Miss Pauline. I will describe some of your experiences. May I process on reading your experiences through the LinkedIn or CV? Okay. Baik, saya mulai untuk membacakan pembacaan CV. Miss Pauline Joseph merupakan seorang principal konsultan di VOTAR Partners. Berasal dari Australia, berpengalaman menjadi seorang profesional manajemen informasi pada sektor industri pertambangan, minyak dan gas, perbankan, dan juga pendidikan. Pada tahun 1988 sampai 1991 dan di Curtin University mendapat gelar Bachelor of Applied Science atau Honors Information dan Library Studies. Nah, tahun 2001, beliau menjabat sebagai Director and Senior Konsultan di Ultimate Knowledge Solution. Tahun 2002, beliau menjadi seorang Information dan Records Manager di Cell Development Australia Ltd atau SD. Tahun 2004 sampai 2010, beliau menempuh pendidikan di University of Western Australia sebagai Doctor of Philosophy, Information Management, dan User Behavior. Dan beliau melaksanakan penelitian dan menghasilkan jurnal berjudul IBRMS Search Behavior Implication for Records Management Practices. Studi ini menyelidiki mengenai kemajuan sistem manajemen catatan dokumen elektronik dan pemahaman yang efektif dalam penyebaran informasi sebuah perusahaan, mengkaji sejauh mana sistem dirancang sesuai dengan prinsip-prinsip manajemen arsip yang digariskan dalam ISO 15489 dan mendukung dalam pengambilan arsip yang efektif oleh pekerja yang berwawasan. Selanjutnya di tahun 2008 sampai 2019, beliau juga berpengalaman 11 tahun menjadi senior lecturer di Curtin University, dan tahun 2017 sampai 2020, beliau berkomitmen menjadi Convener of the Western Australian Branch dan strong advocacy of behalf of the record-keeping profession, dan mendapat penghargaan yaitu Australian Society of Archivists President's Award. Jika ada yang ingin tahu lebih lanjut mengenai Miss Pauline Joseph, bisa cek LinkedIn dan linknya akan di-share pada chat Zoom. Terima kasih sekian pembacaan CV dari saya. Akan saya lanjutkan. Untuk selanjutnya adalah kegiatan penyampaian materi yang akan disampaikan oleh Miss Pauline dan akan diambil alih oleh Ibu Wiwit selaku moderator untuk membimbing proses penyampaian materi tersebut. Kepada Ibu Wiwit, waktu dan tempat saya persilakan.
Baik, terima kasih Yehan. Okay, first of all, I would like to welcome you all to this presentation. Today, we are honored to welcome Ms. Pauline Joseph from VOTAR Partners, Western Australia, as our guest speaker. Ms. Pauline Joseph also my former lecturer from Curtin University before. So this is like a nice revenues for me to meet her again. Before the presentation begins, allow me to introduce the theme of the topic first, maybe in Bahasa Indonesia, before I give it to Miss Pauline. So, EDRMS atau Electronic Document Record Management System adalah sejenis content management system yang dia mengkombinasikan teknologi untuk dokumen management system dengan record management system. Jadi aplikasi ini diintegrasikan biasanya digunakan untuk mengolah dokumen dan records dari awal penciptaannya hingga dari pemusnahannya. Seperti itu. Jadi di public lecture ini Miss Pauline akan menjelaskan kira-kira bagaimana the future of EDRMS in digital era and maybe what should we prepare for it gitu ya. So without further ado, please welcome Miss Pauline Joseph. Miss Pauline, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vivit, and thank you for the introduction and the welcome as well from your university. It's nice to meet you all, and I'm looking forward to sharing and talking about a topic that is very passionate for me, and my PhD research was on electronic document management systems, as you saw in my LinkedIn profile. So I'm really fascinated with this technology, and I see it as a tool that we all as records managers or information managers work with a lot. So I'm happy to share my knowledge about this technology with you. So I'm going to share my screen and take it from there. The slides will be made available, so I'm going to, just gonna bring this up, yeah, so that I would like you all to freely listen today, and then you have this slide pack available to you later, so you can have that for you to look at. So, like Vivid was saying, this is about electronic document records management system, very short form ERMS. in the digital era, and what are the challenges and strategies? It's a tool that we all IM professionals use, but it comes with some challenges as well, and how do we manage them? Okay, so this is the agenda that I would like to walk you through in today's lecture. Firstly, go through and talk to you about what are the drivers for information management. Why do we need to go down this path? Why not keep on working with paper records? What are the challenges in information management? And then I would like to get us aligned on some of the definitions of what we mean by electronic records, what we mean by records management, what we mean by electronic document management systems, and then quickly give you an overview of the differences between a document management system and an electronic document management system. What are the differences and similarities of these two technologies? And then walk you through some of the functional requirements. If you are going to select an electronic document management system, what are the functional requirements you should be looking out for? Then give you an overview of how I see electronic document management systems working in organizations. I've been a practitioner and an academic, and I've now gone back to practice, and I see my clients using this technology, and I would like to share that with you. Now, also talk to you about who are the key vendors in the EDRMS space. So that's important to know who are the vendors in this space who are selling these technologies. And talk to you a little bit about Microsoft 365 platform and why that's a game changer in the EDRMS space, and talk about that a little bit. And then finish off the lecture by saying what are some of the strategies and solutions to make sure that EDRMS implementations are a success. Okay, so I'm going to give you, like Vivid was saying, this is an introduction. We will go through the whole as much as we can about EDRMS, but one lecture is not going to answer all the questions, but we will use the Q&A time later to discuss any other things that you would like to highlight. Yeah. So now, what are the drivers for electronic information? Why must we move into this? There's all this push for born digital to stay digital, so if we are increasingly working with electronic information, we walk around with mobile devices, nowadays, when I write something, my handwriting is not good anymore because I hardly write. You normally type things. We are working with technology more, and so we are creating more digital information. So organizations are saying, if it is born digital, keep it or stay digital. Don't go and print it like how we used to do before. We would, in our organizations, print our emails, file that email into a paper folder. Nowadays, that practice is gone. People are more moving towards, if it was created electronically in Microsoft Word or it came through an email, it's going to be filed into the EDRMS as a digital record. It's not going to be printed anymore. So born digital stays digital. People like to use electronic information because it's easy to share and reuse. You could email it to a lot of people. You can do different things with it. You take a copy and you can start to draft and create something new. You can cut and paste and do all sorts of things. So it's easier to work with than paper records. It's accessible anywhere, anytime, and using any device. So with all of us, with COVID coming, and I'm just jumping into this other point, they are related. COVID has hit all of us globally, and a lot of us have to work from home, and in Australia, at least, I'm sure it's in other places as well. A lot of us have been working from home for 2 years now, since 2019. And we can do it successfully because we can access information from anywhere through the desktops and everything. One of the good things I like about COVID for our profession, not about health, but for our profession, it pushed everyone to go digital. Okay, so those who are thinking, whether I should implement an EDRMS or whether I should digitize things, with COVID and everybody working from home, the organization said, you are digitizing, you are going to use EDRMS. So it really pushed it was a big push for our profession in a positive way, because people went more digital. They started to take notice of all the things we were trying to tell them, that you should start digitizing, you should start putting things in, and we never got the funding. But now with COVID and having to work from home, that funds came available. There were more projects to implement EDRMS and to digitize records. So that was a positive for us. Electronic information is there's findability and searchability. You can find things easily, quickly. Our search engines are much, much better now. So, even in your network drives, and EDRMS has got very good search engines, but you can buy better search engines if you don't like the one you have. There's lots of enterprise search tools that you can use. So finding and searching information is easier in the electronic world than in the paper world. Yeah. Also, electronic records, another driver is there's better integration, there's better connectivity, and then there's also better interoperability. Now, this is a very important term because we all want things to talk to other things. So if I have it on my mobile device, I want it to talk to my iPad, and if it's in my iPad, I want that to talk to my desktop. I want it to connect with the Internet of Things. This is where the future is going. Integration, connection, interoperability is very important. Yeah. There's also a lot of drive. I'm not sure if it's happening in Indonesia, but in Australia, there's a lot of government directives from the National Archives and different state records officers to get their government agencies to start using or going digital by a certain time. So there's a move to say that to meet regulatory compliance, you have to go into digital record keeping, so you have to go into electronic document management system. So there's some regulatory legislation requirements that drives electronic information management. We talked about COVID, so I won't go there. And also what we are seeing in the workforce are digital natives like yourselves. You are young, you were born, and if you're born from 1980s onwards, you were born with technology, you work with them. You see children nowadays in schools. I see that in my nephews and my nieces, and I'm sure you see with your own children or your family. They all walk around with some form of digital technology. They're very tech savvy. They use iPads, and from a young age, they are very comfortable using technology. So when they enter our workforce, this is what's happening. They don't want to work with paper. They want to work with electronic information. So the digital natives are another driver for electronic information management. There could be many other reasons, but I think these were some of the top ones that I've seen being used a lot or being seen as a driver. Yep. So these are the drivers. Then with electronic information management, it comes with some challenges as well. So one of them is ensuring the authenticity, reliability, integrity, and usability of electronic information. When we talk about authenticity, we are saying, is this the real record? If you're putting something up as evidence in court, if it's an electronic record, how do we know that you did not make any changes? Is that the email that I really sent you, or did you go and doctor something? So how do we know it's authentic? How do we know it's the reliable evidence to use? How do we know it's got the integrity that this is the record, this is the email I sent you, this is what I said, this is the date I sent it to you? And usability is another thing, and it comes with technological obsolescence, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Can we use it in the long term, in 100 years, if you're talking about archives, or in 25 years? Some records have to be kept for 10 years. Is that technology, that electronic record, usable in 10 years' time? Can we use that to prove anything in court? So there's all this characteristics, all those things I said to you about authenticity, reliability, integrity, and usability. These are core characteristics of a record. And if you say you're managing information electronically, you have to ensure that all those characteristics of a record are in place. Yeah. what we find is electronic records are very fragile. It's very vulnerable, you know. If you keep them in network drives, it's quite easy to delete them. Sometimes we hear about files being corrupted, people losing work because of that. You know, so there's a lot of fragility in electronic information management. Um, I am not convinced, and we don't know yet, in about 200 years, in 300 years, all these things we are creating electronically, can we still access them? Can we still read them? Will it be in the format that we've created them in? At least now, we still see paper records and we can still read them. You know, you can, although the paper could be a bit fragile, brittle, and yellow, the discoloration, there's conservation work that one can do, and you can still access and read what happened, you know, 2000 years ago. But can we do that with electronic information? You know, we haven't lived long enough, so we don't know yet, but we are concerned about the fragility and vulnerability of electronic information. Then there's all this cybersecurity threats as well, you know, so we hear about hacking, and big companies like Sony, governments, the Pentagon have been hacked already, you know. So who are we and our small little organization or government agencies? So we are being targeted with cybersecurity threats. That's always there. And when they hack into our EDRMS or any other systems, what do they do to our records? You know, do we still have access to it? You know, will backups still be there? These are things that worries an information manager. Then there's also this issue about cloud computing. You know, the horse has bolted on this, whether we like it or not. People have gone to the cloud. Everything is kept on the cloud now. Yeah. But cloud computing comes with its challenges as well. Which cloud are you using? Is this, especially if it's an offshore cloud and you're storing things in another country, will you have, you're subjected to the rules and legislation of that country. And when you want to delete things or you want to remove things, is that allowed? You know, there's all those issues to look at, but they're all manageable, and people have moved on. There's a lot of positive things and strategies to overcome cloud computing issues. So it's not a biggie, but it's still there. And there's always those things about when you delete something, if it's on the cloud, it takes much longer to delete, because there's many replications of our records or documents in the cloud. Yeah, so that's another thing to think about. There's also this issue about long-term preservation. I touched on it a little bit when we talked about authenticity and usability, especially. We are concerned as information managers about technological obsolescence. And there's three types of things that could happen with electronic information. The media format, it could be in a media format that we cannot access anymore. You know, maybe it was done in a CD-ROM or it was done in a floppy disk. And our computers nowadays don't come with floppy disk readers or CD-ROM readers, so we can't access that information. We are all now using USB sticks, you know, so that seems to be working quite well for all of us. But in the future, will we have those technologies to read them? So the media format changes, and then accessibility and usability becomes an issue for us. Then there's always this contextual challenge as well, or obsolescence, where we lose metadata, especially when you're migrating from one system into another for long-term preservation. Sometimes you lose some metadata when you start to migrate. And when you lose metadata, you lose the context. You know, in what context was it created? What was the date, the time, the format? You know, those type of information get lost. So there's that obsolescence as well. And we talked about technology, and this is more about software and hardware as well. Now we are all using Microsoft's Word and so on, but before that we were using other word processing softwares like WordPerfect or WordStar. Those, you know, if you did not migrate your documents to whatever is happening with Microsoft Word now, we can't access that. So there's always this technological obsolescence, and all this affects readability and accessibility of our information or records. Yeah. And especially we are talking about archival records. In many years, archives live forever and ever. Can we still read them? That's another challenge. There's also this e-discovery issues. If you don't manage your information properly, and the court comes in with a subpoena into your organization and say, we've got the right now to check what information you've got in all the different systems, because it's easier to find information, and if you've not got good records management practices, you could be keeping something that they could find and use against your organization or yourself and sue you. So there's all these e-discovery issues. If you delete something, make sure it's deleted from everywhere. It's not kept in some network drive, but you delete it from the EDRMS, so that if they come with an e-discovery subpoena, they could use the information in the network drive to sue our organization. Or another big threat is information sitting in our email systems. Okay, that becomes an issue as well, and it doesn't get moved into the EDRMS, and e-discovery issues come into play at that time. Then we've got all this in the organization. There's a lot of unapproved collaboration sites. So if I want to collaborate with you, I use Google Drive, or I use Dropbox, or personal OneDrives, and share that. That's not the corporate system. So now corporate information is sitting in some commercially available, low risk managed system, and that compromises your information. And this is a big challenge with organizations. They are using, employees are sharing information outside the organization using unauthorized collaboration sites that are not secure. Yeah. Another challenge with electronic information, and that's more because of how we decide what a record is. In electronic document management systems, you need to declare and say that this is a record. It's a document, and now it's I declare it as a record, and that's how it's managed in an EDRMS. And a lot of employees don't like to do that. When they finish the document, they don't take the extra step to declare it as a record. So, and then when you go into the EDRMS, you're not sure which is the record. Oh, they didn't declare it. Is that the record, or this one is the record? So you're a bit confused which is the latest version, or which is the source of truth that you should be working with. So these are some of the challenges that we face with electronic information. Yeah. Now, before we go to the next slide, where I will do some definitions, I thought I would like to focus on what is information. And this is another research I did with my colleague from the University of Toronto, Jenna Hartle, where we asked students to draw for us what they think information is. And then we compiled the drawings and we did some stories. And this is one of the stories we did. And I like this story because when I try to explain to my students when I was an academic, what is the difference between data, records, and so on, and information, they found it hard to understand because a lot of times the definitions are textual. A record is in the next slide. You'll see me using text again to explain definitions, but sometimes giving people a visual of what we are talking about helps them, so that's why we did this research and said, it uses the draw and write technique and asks them to draw. So we compiled that. So I want to just walk you through that because you need to understand what is information, because that's the commodity or product that you are managing. So you really need to know what is information. Yeah. So now let me try and explain this to you. So in this drawing one, we are talking that data exists as abstract bits that need to be filtered for sense making. So data is always in zeros and one. So there's a lot of data floating all around us. And somehow there's some logic in some there's no logic, and you see that filter there. So that says a lot of things come in, and we need to filter and say, oh, this is this type of information, this is this type of, categorize it into different areas. Yeah, so that's what data is there. So it's all data is very confusing. You have to put some structure into that. Then In the second drawing, we say our brain receives all the data and processes that into information. So data comes in, and then it is our brain that looks at it and says, oh, I'm going to process it into different categories, and then placing that in, and our brain places information into context and generates tacit knowledge. So it is our brain that says, oh, that's the discussion that I had in the meeting, and we talked to someone about this. This is the work that I did, and I'm going to put it into my computer, or this is about the book that I read, or that fits in with this. So it's our brain that starts to put some tacit knowledge into that. And you would heard about this word tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is what goes on in our head, how we compartmentalize information into different groups. And then this tacit knowledge is still in our head, and it can be contained as recorded knowledge. Okay, so the moment we decide to make the tacit knowledge explicit knowledge and put it into records, either we write something, we put it in a USB, a CD-ROM, or somewhere, we've put it in some form of container and written it, then that tacit knowledge becomes explicit knowledge. And by putting it into different things, this is how, by recording it into different media formats and forms, we create another subset of information referred as documents, records, and archives. Okay, so and that's how that's, I think, a visual description to start to explain to you how data becomes tacit knowledge, and tacit knowledge becomes explicit knowledge, and explicit knowledge becomes documents, records, and archives. Okay, so I hope that gives you a visual explanation to this big abstract concept of information. Okay, so that's that one. Now there's a few more definitions to talk about. These are all from the different sources in International Council of Archives, but I think we need to get aligned here. What do we mean by an electronic record? An electronic record is a record on electronic storage media produced, communicated, maintained, and or accessed by means of electronic equipment. So that makes sense. It's all electronic. Now, records management, you hear different definitions, and I just took this one from the International Council of Archives, but the ISO 15489 standard, the records management standard, has a very good definition of records management as well. So have a look at that too. But basically, records management is the control of the creation, receipt, maintenance, use, disposal of records in accordance with professional and international standards of practice. So it is about managing information throughout its life cycle, from creation until we dispose it. Yeah. So now, what is an EDRMS? There's a few definitions. I took two from the National Archives and again from International Council of Archives. But EDRMS is an electronic document records management system. It's a software, it's an application that manages information such as email, word processed documents, spreadsheets, images, scanned documents, so you can digitize things. And an EDRMS can also control paper records and physical objects. And I think that is very important. It can manage information in two different media, paper and electronic. I also like this definition. It says, they are systems specifically designed to manage the maintenance and disposition of records. They maintain the content, context, structure, and the links between records to enable their accessibility and support and their value as evidence. I think those two definitions are quite good, and they tell us very quickly what an EDRMS is. Yeah, so I hope that helps you with your understanding. Sorry, did I go to the next one? Yeah. There is this, you need to understand what is the difference between a document management system and an electronic document and records management system. There's a real difference between the two. I'm informed that you might have read my article. It's called EDRMS 101, The Basics. And in this article, I describe in detail what is an EDRMS, why we have an EDRMS, how the drivers, the difference, the design, the selection of vendors, and so on. If you have not had a chance to read, I would recommend that you try and read that, because here I take the trouble to really explain all the difference. And it's a very good history of how document management systems have changed and evolved today. There have been a lot of universities, I'm informed, use this as a reference article to introduce their students to EDRMS. And if I've had a few requests to write another sequel to part 2 of this, but I don't have time. But EDRMS technology has changed, but this was written many years ago. I think it's 2009 or something, this publication, and it's changed a lot. But what I like about this is and this is what other lecturers have told me, it gives you an history of how EDRMS started, how it was at that time, many years ago, and what's happening now. So it's worth having a look and reading it. And yeah, I talk about functionalities of an EDRMS, and check in, check out, and so on, how you declare records. There are nice tables here to explain to you the functionality, the purpose of each of these functions, and how what application is used for that. Yeah, so have a look and a read if that's of interest to you. It'll help your understanding. Yeah, I just had a few things here to say that this is the difference between a document management system and a records management system. In a document management system, the documents can be modified, but in a records management system, a record is a final item or record. That's why we don't want to modify, because that's finalized. So a document management system just allows you to make a lot of changes, and then you make it into a final. That's why we ask them in an EDRMS to declare it as a record, so it's final. Yeah. And there are functionalities in an EDRMS that once you make it final, you can't make changes to it, but that's how we know it's authentic, and that is the record. Then there's all of these other things. Documents in a document management system can be deleted by owners or assigned records management focal points. But if it's in a records management system, it cannot be deleted except in certain strictly controlled circumstances, unless you're an administrator and there's a reason to do that. Some retention controls are included in a document management system, but in a records management system, it's very rigorous. You got a general disposal schedule that's normally implemented, and you manage it that way. So I won't go through the others, but it is there for you to look at. I'll just move on to the other slide where we talk about the similarities. In a document management system, there's all this check-in, check-out, and because you're making changes to the document. There's version control. That's what we like about an EDRMS. It's got version control, so we know who did what when. That's the audit trail. So we can always prove evidence and say that this what happened, and who did it, what change was done. There's version control. You can review and approve. With records management, of course, you got your metadata, your classification, your business classification schemes get put in. You can manage archives and dispose them, and also manage physical records. Yeah. So an electronic document records management system would have both of this type of capabilities. And you can see them here. So there's search and retrieval. Renditions are important. So that means you can have the document in Microsoft Word, and then you can also convert it into a PDF format. So the same information is in Word format and also in a PDF format. So the different renditions of it. It often integrates with scanning, imaging, and OCR, optical character recognition software. So you can digitize your paper records into electronic document management system. So that's all from that article, EDRMS 101. Now, there is, this is important for you to know as well about where are all this, what are the functional requirements for an electronic document management system. You would, from earlier I said that an EDRMS manages the life cycle of information from the time we create to maintain search and retrieval and disposal as well. Okay, so what are these functionalities? Now, there are very good standards that talk about it. So I've put for you references in my paper for you, but I just want to talk to you about these functional requirements for records management. This standard has been converted into an ISO standard 16175. But then if you want to, you can buy that standard, but you can also access it freely on the website, but they put it in 3 different modules for us. Yeah. So it was developed by the International Council of Archives and then it started to get adopted as a standard. Yeah. So this document is very good and useful because it tells you the functional requirements, you know. So it says that these are the requirements. EDRMS must be able to capture records. It must be able to identify. It must be able to classify and then manage authentic and reliable records. It should have hybrid records management. That means it must manage electronic and paper records. It should have a retention disposal schedule. And then it's got all this rendering and administration. I'm going to just go to page just 24 and show you. So it goes into great detail, everyone. So I would use this. So when I am, if a client of mine asks me to be in a panel to select an electronic document management system, I will tick off, use this as my checklist and say, okay, can it do this? Can it do this, and so on, you know? So normally, and this is how we check whether it's got all the functionalities of an EDRMS. And then we see, okay, well, that's good, that meets or it doesn't meet. Okay, so this resource is available for you there and it is in my references, so you'll have access to it. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there is a source that would explain it all to you, yeah, in great detail. Now, this is a snapshot. This is how I see an electronic document management system working successfully in an organization. Remember, like I said earlier, an EDRMS manages the life cycle of an organization's information from the time we create it to the time we dispose it or destroy it. Yeah. So it should manage the entire life cycle. Yeah. So ideally in an organization, you would try to get people to get using the EDRMS and integrate it with everything else that's there. So anything that's in Microsoft 365, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint should be integrated. If there's any paper records, you should be digitizing them and getting them into your EDRMS. Anything you're publishing on your intranet or internet, that should be going through an approval publication process, and the document should be sitting on your EDRMS, yeah, the working documents or the final ones you're publishing. You should make what you call network drives restricted. It's best if you make them read only. Okay, so it's no point putting an electronic document management system if you open the door to the network drives. Okay, there's no point in it. Okay, you have to really shut down network drives for EDRMS to be successful. And the one thing I would leave in the network drive are spreadsheets with formula links. You know, Microsoft Excel spreadsheets with formula links. They don't work very well in an EDRMS. The vendors have not solved that problem. So especially the finance team, they've got lots of spreadsheets with links. So we say, okay, you can put that in the network drive, but everything else should be in the EDRMS. All your mobile devices, they should be integrating and seamlessly connecting to an EDRMS. Here in Australia, town council workers, if they are doing any swimming pool inspections, they walk around to a property, they are inspecting the pool, they walk with their iPad, and then they can take photographs. and that's all connected, and there's a checklist on his iPad to use, and that's all connected back to the EDRMS. Okay, so there's really tight integration. In an organization, we will have many business systems. We call them line of business applications. Okay, so now where possible, you should try and see if that system can integrate with the EDRMS. If it can't, then you have to again assess and see other requirements and say what records it creates. Can the final reports be the ones that we migrate, integrate, or scan and digitize into the EDRMS? So the whole thing, what I'm trying to say in this slide is there should be greater connectivity with all business applications with the EDRMS. And a lot of people are using Microsoft Teams in Australia to work. And so that is another source of information. And that's why I purposely put that out. That should go into the EDRMS as well. So in an ideal scenario, you will see information coming together like that. Yeah. Oops. This one, I wanted to show you that there's this thing called the Gartner's Magic Quadrant for content service providers, and this is where the EDRMS vendors come in as well. So you should always look at this Gartner's Magic Quadrant to see who are the key players in electronic document management system, who are the key suppliers. And they normally tell us who are the challengers, who are the leaders, who are the niche players in this market, and who are the visionaries. And you can see in the leaders, Microsoft is there, right on top, okay? And then you see others coming there. The traditional EDRMS like Objective are still there. OpenText is a leader. I've worked with OpenText when I worked with Shell. Shell used to use OpenText. Now Shell has moved to Microsoft. Then you've got Laserfish. A client of mine uses Laserfish as well. So there's all these different solutions for electronic document management systems. Now, I've put a link for you there, but if you were to go into Microsoft, this is the link. You have to sign up for this and get a free book, and then you'll get some emails sent to you promoting things. But oh, sorry, that's not that one. Let me just go here. Yeah, this is the Magic Quadrant. Okay, so what I like about Gartner in this, so I did tell you, you have to log in, sign up to the site to get access to that information, but they give you a very good description of the vendors, and they tell you about the strengths of the vendor and the cautions of that. So that's really very, very valuable. I always refer to this document and study, okay, this is the good things about this thing, this EDRMS software vendor, and these are the things we should worry about. Okay, so have a look. It's worth signing up and giving your personal details to get that information there. Yeah, just go back to the slide. Now, I see Microsoft 365 and the E5 platform. E5 is a special license that they are selling to be a big game changer, okay? There's a lot of attractions to Microsoft 365. In reality, in many organizations, the horse has bolted, whether we like it or not. In Australia, I'm not sure what's the trend in Indonesia, but in Australia, most organizations are Microsoft organizations. You know, we get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Teams. So our IT department has already signed a contract with Microsoft. Yeah. So, and Microsoft is used a lot. So whether we records managers quickly jump in and say, no, I would like to use Microsoft 365 for my as an EDRMS platform. If you don't do that quick enough, people will already, your staff will start using. And that's what we are observing in organizations where they've got other EDRMS, staff have started to use Microsoft SharePoint to manage their records. Yeah, it's seamless, it's user-friendly, it's already implemented, it comes as part of their desktop. They all work with Microsoft Teams a lot, so they like to use Microsoft SharePoint to manage their records. Okay, so now the thing about Microsoft 365, it's got records management modules. Okay, so, it can do RM. But then there's a lot of confusion and risk because not many records, it doesn't use records management traditional terminology. So many records managers are not familiar with the terms that Microsoft 365 uses. They use terms like libraries, team sites, and so on. This is not terminology that's used in traditional EDRMS like Objective or Micro Focus, or what we used to call TRIM previously. They don't use such terminology, but Microsoft uses new terms that records managers are not very familiar with. And all the RM functions and the compliance center sits with IT, because you need to have IT governance or management in place to get access to that. And so IT has taken over that, and we records managers don't know how to ask for access for it. So we are seeing and we are telling our clients, you need to ask for access. And we are telling our IT team clients as well, you need to give the RM people the compliance for RM management, give them access so they can do the RM in Microsoft 365. So there's all this confusion there. Now, this is the biggest question. The jury is still out on whether Microsoft 365 replaces the traditional EDRMS in the marketplace, like Micro Focus, TRIM, Objective, OpenText, and so on. Some organizations are using Microsoft 365 as the front end. So the users and staff use SharePoint and Microsoft Teams to manage their records. So they don't see the back end where the traditional EDRMS could be TRIM, Objective, or OpenText. This is where the RMs go in to manage the life cycle of the record in the end. So normally the traditional EDRMS is sitting in the back end. Okay. Now, traditional EDRMS vendors have integration developed with Microsoft 365. They are all gold partners. When you look at Objective and TRIM and OpenText, they are all gold partners with Microsoft. So they're all working together. But the question still remains. Many of my clients always ask us, so if we get Microsoft 365, must we still keep our TRIM? Must we still use our Objective? So the jury is still out. We got a mixed bag, for different reasons. I would like you to also check out what different records management institutions are advising about Microsoft 365 implementation. I've put a link for you to the State Records Office, and I think I've got that there. So this is the State Records Office of Western Australia. Other records offices also give advice on this. And this is worth looking at, and here just in the introduction, it says, this is a very big statement. It says here, Microsoft 365 provides capability for managing digital information and in-place record keeping in accordance with the State Records Act. That's a very big statement. Yeah. So have a read of that. I see we are running out of time, so I won't go into that, but that's available for you. But Microsoft 365, the E5 license is a big game changer. Okay, so it's a new EDRMS in the market. These are some strategies and solutions, when we design EDRMS, we must make sure the design is user-friendly, it's seamless and integrates with our business work practices and user experience. If users find it difficult to use, they are not going to use it. Where possible, try to implement workflows to automate how information is captured. The business classification scheme, keep it simple and intuitive for users. Retention schedule, that says how long we keep things, should be hidden from users. They don't need to know about it. Where possible, use controlled metadata pick lists, so there's data integrity. Always onboard users with records management and EDRMS training before you give them the license. Provide refresher training continuously. Be proactive to changing user requirements and adapt the EDRMS and business classification scheme to work for them. It must work for them. Always conduct quality checks and follow up with user training. Work closely with IT and governance and business areas, because that's where our our working relationships need to be to have successful EDRMS, and try to use the word information instead of records, because it opens up a bigger door for us. It includes data as well. Yeah. And so these are some of the references that I've used in my presentation here. You can have a look at them. My academic publications are still available freely from eSpace there. And you'll see because my PhD and my research was on EDRMS, I've published extensively on that topic. There's all these barriers to information seeking in EDRMS, user difficulty in using a business classification scheme. This paradigm shifts in record keeping responsibilities is worth looking at too. And that's the one I used earlier, which is visualizing information using drawings. Yeah. So I will stop there. I think we are right on the time. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. Maybe I would like to summarize it in Bahasa Indonesia, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Jadi Bapak Ibu semua dan juga para mahasiswa, jadi EDRMS ini sebenarnya bermulai dari bahwa kita semua kan selalu create ya kan, selalu create dokumen namanya. Dokumen itu berarti dia masih bisa diubah-ubah. Nah, dengan EDMS atau Document Management System, saat kita masih mencoba mengubah-ubahnya, itu nanti dia akan merekam versi-versinya. Begitu juga kalau misalnya ada teman sejawat kita yang mau merevisi, nah itu ada sistem check-in, check-out di EDMS yang kemudian kelihatan bahwa dia versi keberapa, terus siapa yang merevisi dan lain sebagainya gitu kan. Terus kemudian kalau kemudian dia sudah fix artinya berarti sudah jadi records, maka kita declare menjadi records seperti itu kan, itu sebagai arsip yang berarti sudah fix, sudah nggak bisa diubah-ubah. Nanti dia masuk ke ERMS. Tapi sekarang kita coba integrasikan antara EDMS dan ERMS jadi EDRMS. Dan di sini juga intinya mindsetnya adalah apapun yang kita, apalagi di pandemi ini ya, kita semua mengerjakan di laptop masing-masing, di handphone masing-masing, terus di rumah masing-masing gitu kan, sehingga banyak pekerjaan-pekerjaan itu yang kemudian ada di komputer masing-masing. Nah, dengan EDRMS ini, dia akan coba untuk di-pool ya jadi satu tempat, sehingga selalu ada di satu tempat itu. Nah, kemudian Miss Pauline ini juga memperkenalkan Microsoft 365 yang menurut dia adalah game changer atau sekarang jadi leader untuk EDRMS. Dan kalau kita lihat bahwa banyak organisasi sebenarnya di Indonesia yang menggunakan Office 365 ya untuk pekerjaannya masing-masing, termasuk di UI gitu. Nah, itu bisa dimanfaatkan lebih lanjut sebenarnya untuk jadi EDRMS tadi. Karena kalau kita lihat praktek di lapangan ini sebenarnya kan masih terpencar-pencar ya, ada yang nyimpen di OneDrive, ada yang di eDrive gitu kan, terus mungkin ada di laptop masing-masing sehingga masih terpisah-pisah di mana-mana gitu. Nah, tadi Miss Pauline sudah ngasih beberapa referensinya untuk melihat lebih lanjut dan bagaimana kita bisa menggunakan M365 ini atau Office 365 ini menjadi lebih efektif lagi sebagai DRMS. Itulah kurang lebih ya. Nah, ini masih introduction. Mudah-mudahan maybe we can have like further discussion or deeper discussion in other session, maybe Pauline. Yeah. But this is only an introduction. So if any of you want to have any questions, I will have 3 questions for first session. Siapa yang mau bertanya terlebih dahulu? Panitianya ada yang mau bantu atau mungkin tadi sih sudah ada yang japri saya, Miss Ana, mungkin Miss Triana mau langsung nanya. Miss Triana?
Ya, thank you Miss Wiwit, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Pauline. I'm Anna.
Good morning.
I'm Anna from Daniel S. Clark Law Library. I want to ask you some questions. I wonder if about the challenges of the storage that obsolete. Have you doing any effort to convert or migrate the media regularly? We usually have external hard disk, external storage for the document, and from the CD, now we cannot access it anymore to USB, to external hard disk, to maybe to drive. Then related to the that you stated that documents that convert to declare as records, we cannot change it anymore. It's permanent. We cannot change the metadata or information about it. Maybe my questions is making you confused, but the point is, how about the shifting of the storage or media that we cannot change the metadata or information? How if we migrate the media? Maybe that's it, Miss Pauline. How maybe Miss Wiwit can state it more clearly. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she's talking about the migration, right? Yeah.
Migration, is it? Migration, yeah.
Migration, yeah.
Yes, if I understand the question correctly, I apologize if I don't, but it is a challenge. But like you said, let's use the CD-ROM example. Yeah, we are supposed to migrate frequently. Yeah, and I don't know why there's a little bit of noise there. If it's coming to you, but if you take CD-ROM and migrate over, that's okay, because CD-ROM, it's all just documents, and the metadata that you have, you might have it in a piece of paper or something. Remember, CD-ROMs are not like EDRMS type of things, but you can import or write that metadata into the electronic document management system. But from the CD-ROM, we can migrate over. So what you're saying is we are supposed to refresh immediately, or as frequently as we can to the new technology. And there's a lot of exercises now going on to migrate from CD-ROMs or DVDs and put them onto the cloud, for example. Yeah. So there is always some form of data loss, and that's why we say always scan to PDF-A format now, if you can, so that it retains the format and the structure, the layout and everything when we migrate to the new system. So it's when you do it and what are the risks you're willing to take, but definitely CD-ROM only has got 25 years lifespan. Unless you buy the gold CD-ROM where you can keep for archival, they tell us, it keeps for more than 100 years at the moment. So yeah, migration is always an issue, and refreshing and copying into different media is always there, but sometimes depending on the document or record you are migrating and the media, you might lose some context to it, if it's in a Word format, it's not in a PDF, then the paragraph could appear a little bit different to how it originally was. Yeah. I hope I've answered that question for you.
Okay, Ana, ada tambahan lagi? Or enough?
Enough, thank you, Miss Pauline.
Yeah. Miss Pauline, for that migration, is there any role from EDRMS to minimize the risk losing the data when we migrate?
It's been very successful. The technology has improved a lot, and we got vendors who are very experienced with data migration. So they all copy things. They do several backups and before they migrate over. So we are not hearing any unfortunate things happening. And in Australia, lately a lot in Western Australia, a few state government agencies amalgamated, and when they amalgamated, they joined EDRMS, like this one was using TRIM, the other one was using Objective, and they decided to use TRIM, for example. So the Objective had to be migrated over, and we didn't hear any data loss stories because the technology is quite good now in terms of migrations. Yeah. Because they sit down and map everything across. So this is going to go there, that's going to map to this metadata and so on. The migration has been successful. Remember, there's always backups, so you can reverse back and go back and see what went wrong. Yeah. So I think we can tick off that. That's not in our radar anymore. We are not so worried about migration and data loss. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There is another question from Miss Dinda Widi. Maybe Miss Dinda can ask a question yourself.
Okay, thank you, Miss Wiwit, and hello, Pauline. Nice to meet you, and thanks for your really well insightful explanation.
Yes.
I'm Dinda. Now I work as a document control and record management officer at oil and gas company. In this occasion, I want to ask you some questions. First, what do you think if company want to build their own EDRMS? So without any vendor or without any service company, and if we want to build our own system, what actually we want to prepare if we want to build that system, Ms. Pauline?
Okay.
That's all.
Yes, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. My experience, I've worked in this field for many years. My advice is do not build your own EDRMS. Do not go there. Don't take that step because, and I tell you why, it's a very complex software. Okay, very, very complex software. And the technology is changing all the time. All right. And now we are moving away from organizations where you got a very big IT department. Everybody in Australia, I'm saying this, and I see this trend in other countries like the US as well and the UK. We are all subscribing to Microsoft 365 or Microsoft on the cloud. Okay. We have outsourced all our IT hardware management and network management, everything to Microsoft on the cloud. So our IT departments are getting smaller. There's in very less than 10 people now in a very big organization. So if you go and start to build your own EDRMS, who is going to support you? Will they be there all the time? Right? And this technology is changing all the time, changing so much. Can you keep up with it? And now, like I said, in the ideal world, the way that I described an EDRMS should be managed, we wanted to integrate, have interoperability, connectivity with other line of business application. So if you go and build something on your own, you have to always go and create plugins and connections to all your other software. You're not using standard softwares. Okay, then you will customize it so much if you build it yourself that it's very hard to keep up with changes in technology update with Microsoft products like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, email. You have to keep up with the changes to maintain connection. And why go through all that trouble? There are vendors, there are professional people who have dedicated their businesses to doing EDRMS software, and they are already in strife, I can see. I don't know how long these vendors will be alive because of the challenges posed by Microsoft 365. Microsoft has now come up and said, everybody, take it easy. I will give you the EDRMS. I gave you Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Teams. Now I will give you EDRMS. Okay. Currently, I'm calling it Microsoft 365 E5 license or whatever SharePoint they want to call it. Okay, so they are giving that. So why you want to challenge Microsoft? For me, it's like ever since I worked in this profession, I used to say at that time, Bill Gates, I would say, Bill Gates, you gave us Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and why didn't you give us an EDRMS? To solve all our problems. Because when I first started to work, and you'll see that in my article, it was very hard. The EDRMS could not talk to Word. It could not talk to email. And we were like thinking, why did Bill Gates do this? We have to get it integrated. But now he has woken up. He's given us Microsoft 365. It's talking organization your staff are using. So why would you go and build yourself? The ones that already there, you can see them, in the Gartner quadrant, are struggling a bit, I would say. I don't know, in 10 years' time, will they be there or not? Because Microsoft is getting stronger and stronger. They're doing all the things that traditional vendors used to give us. And look, all the RM institutions are saying Microsoft 365, it's certified, it complies with State Records Act 2000. You just have to say that, and people will start using Microsoft 365. So to answer your question, be very careful. I wouldn't take that path because we won't be able to be successful. You'll spend a lot of money inventing something that somebody else has invented and it does a good job. I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss Pauline, for the answer.
Yeah.
Oke, Dinda, Miss Dinda ada pertanyaan lagi? Cukup?
I think enough is it.
Okay. Okay, for the next question, this is someone WhatsApp me. He asked to ask you why you still use electronic term for electronic records, not digital records. He just wondering. So this is like a broad question.
Yes, yeah. You can use either of them, electronic or digital. I think digital is the new term. You're right. Digital, and in government agencies, in WA, they are asking the documents are all digital strategy. Yeah. So yeah, it's the latest term. I've used that word electronic for many years, so that's still in my mind. That comes naturally to me. But and also they still call it electronic document management system. They don't call it digital document management system. So I'm using electronic. But you're right, it's digital. It's born digital. I think the only other difference is when you say digital, usually we are talking about it's born digital. But I think electronic, we also, it was hard copy and we scanned it and made it digital. So it's a minor subtle difference, but no big change. I think the new trend is to use digital. But when we talk in our field, we don't say digital records management. We always say electronic records management. We're still using that phrase. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Miss Pin. Any other questions? Maybe from the chat? No? Okay.
Miss Vivi,
Ya,
ada pertanyaan dari Pak Pras di WA.
silakan. This is a question from Prasetyo. He asked is there any rules or international standard for cloud access and security? Because we all are using clouds. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's a standard, but there's a checklist. I can find that and send it to you, Vivek, to share with everyone. But I use it a lot with my clients. There's a nice checklist that has been put out. that says these are the requirements, so before the client when we're evaluating a cloud service provider, we go through that checklist and ask all those questions. So I can send that to you. I don't know if they converted it into a standard or not, but that definitely is a list of points to go through to check for cloud storage before you go into that. I'll email it to you and you can give it to everyone. Yeah.
Because I think in Indonesia we usually use a Google Drive or OneDrive. Yeah. So do you think they make
Google Drive is not safe. Google is not. It's a commercial software, just like Dropbox, and we don't know. Do you know where the server is stored? Which country is storing that data, server? And data sovereignty is a big question. And some countries like the US, they can I think it's the Patriot Act or something that they can enforce. So if you want to take out your information and you don't want to use this service provider, you want to migrate it to someone else, will they let you take that information away? Is another question. Yeah. So there's this standard. Just trying to find it, but it's something that we use all the time to make sure that it conforms or not.
So this is a new for me. So I think that checklist will be benefit for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I'll send it to you. It's very user friendly. And I always go through that when my client says, can you please advise, should we use this vendor? And increasingly, all the vendors are storing everything on the cloud. Yeah. Okay, I'll try and find that and send it over to you. Yeah. It could be by the National Archives. Yeah, I won't keep you all waiting on that one, but I'll send that.
Miss Pauline, there is one more question. So this is from Nico. Pak Nico asked if he asked that there is now a new some kind of new trend about data science. So and then with our job that we need to manage data management. So this is also our job. So do you think we also need to learn about data science? Will this be like part of our jobs that we need to know about that or something like that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that's something I would like your university to consider including in the curriculum. Our role as information managers are changing. And like I said to you, I don't like to use the word records manager or records or anything like that anymore, because we just narrow our profession and ourselves. We short sell ourselves. Say that you are an information manager, because information includes data. It includes documents, it includes knowledge management, and it includes, electronic information records and archives and everything. So I always say you're an information manager. And I think Vivid, future students should know about data management. That should be part of their curriculum as well. Yeah. The more we know, try to pick up IT skills, so information technology should be added into the curriculum as well. We just don't want the traditional records managers or management thing. Now we will work with IT people. A lot of organizations now, like I said to you about Microsoft 365, this is why we're having this confusion, because the whole records compliance management in Microsoft 365 comes as part of the IT suite. So the IT guys think that, oh, this is another system and we should have access to manage it. But they're not letting records managers become the administrators of the compliance center. But what we're telling our clients, with our IT clients, is you need to get the door opened and let your records manager manage it. They will do a better job than you. You need to train them on how to do it. So now what's happening, everyone, if we don't lift ourselves up and take up data management and all information technology, what will happen is the IT people are learning our discipline. They are trying to understand what is records, what is archives, what does she talk about BCS, why she's on about records, retention disposal schedule. They are learning from us. And so why? Because their Microsoft 365 Records Compliance Center is part of the IT suite. So if we don't learn their field better and integrate with them, they are going to learn about us and they are going to say, we don't need you anymore. Okay, so as future professionals, you have to include all of them. That's the better curriculum to have.
Okay, thank you, Miss Pauline. There are 3 more questions. The first one, Miss Dinda want to ask one more question. Mbak Dinda.
Okay, thank you, Sujit. Miss Pauline, sorry, I want to ask you anymore about 2 things I want to ask you.
Yeah.
First, now almost all departments using their own system, such as financial application and then geographic information system and many more. As your experience, how is the best ways for managing that all born digital records? Have you made that system as an integrated system, or maybe another ways to manage that all born digital records? Yeah, because so far I most of records I manage just paper form, but
Yeah.
we know that we know that we have experience about digital transform and many more. So what do you think about that?
Sorry, I could not hear you very clearly, and I understand you're in a work environment where there's surround sound, so I truly appreciate that. But the question is it, did I understand correctly, you want to how to integrate
Yeah.
business systems with EDRMS, is it?
Yeah.
And the question is it how or should we?
Yes. Both.
Both. Okay.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, we should integrate where possible. Yeah, we should integrate where possible. And you know that ICA requirements, let me just share my screen one more time. It's this module here. It's guidelines for functional requirements for records in business systems. Okay, so have a look at this document because it tells you some of the things, you know, for when you want to integrate, what are the things that you want to look out for. So that's there. That's why I like this ICE module, because they come up with all the different things for different things. But what I wanted to say is in terms of how you integrate, you really need to, this is beyond us. This is not what we information management professionals do, but what we tell. Firstly, I would do an assessment, right? The biggest important thing for us is that line of business application system, the business system, does it have records management functionalities? Mainly, can you put your retention disposal schedule and manage the life cycle of the information? Like if it's kept for 10 years, can you keep it for 10 years? And also all the other things we talked about, version control, authenticity, and making no changes to a record. if you think you can satisfy those requirements, then you leave the business system as it is. But usually you don't, because it's not an EDRMS, it's a business system. Then you start to say, okay, how can I integrate? Saying integration is a very big topic. Sometimes you can't integrate fully, but what you can do is the business records reports that are generated by the system are then downloaded and saved into your EDRMS. So that could be another thing. Other types of integration I see, sometimes case management systems, they got case file systems. The vendor of that business system needs to talk to the EDRMS vendor, and they can see what type of integration they can do. So it's not something we IM professionals can do. This is where the IT guys and especially vendors of the business systems need to have a conversation. And what we have to do is to facilitate that. I hope that explains our role in it. We can't do the integration, but where possible, you try to integrate. And I've seen successful integrations. And that's the first question you ask, when you're buying an EDRMS, you understand your organization and you say, the key business system in my organization is this HR management system. And whatever EDRMS we buy must talk to this. So you ask the EDRMS vendor, can it integrate? What connectors we need to put in? So this could be your one of your decision points. But if you can't integrate, it is okay. There's other ways to bring the record in.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pauline.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, the second question would be from Bu Rustina from Kemendikbud. She asks, have you ever looked at the government's database or information application, because she's wondering whether what we already developed from government already developed for archive and records application, is it already like suitable with international standard?
Sorry, will you say that again? So the question is, are the archive standards international, is it?
No. So our governments nowadays, like, they try to develop archive and information application or record information application. And so Bu Rustina just wondering whether we already like follow this international standard. But maybe I need to ask you first, have you ever like seen one of our application or not?
No, I haven't. Sorry, I've not seen any Indonesian no applications. No, so I'm not aware. My apologies. I do not know your requirements or what your government has put out. But I'm happy to ever.
Yeah, I think from your reference, I think we can use that for our checklist. Yeah, whether we already
comply
or not. Yeah, comply. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Especially module 2. That is the functional requirement. And Vivid, if your university subscribes to the international standards, SAI Global and all that, when we were in Curtin, I used to have access to it. I don't, so that's why I'm using this. But if you subscribe to SAI Global and get access to international standards, I think it's ISO 16175. These modules became that ISO standard.
Okay, maybe I will ask Miss Rustina, Bu Rustina, if there are still other questions. But before that, there is also the third questioner from Darrell. Yeah, Darrell, you want to ask yourself?
Yeah, Miss. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. So I would like to introduce myself first. So my name is Daryl. So I'm one of the student at University of Indonesia. So I would like to ask you a question. So what are the advantages on using IDRMS on paper records and physical objects? And is it is it important to us or organization to implement or apply the EDRMS on physical objects or paper records nowadays?
Yeah, EDRMS, and I'll give you a live example. There's a lot of very good question, Daryl. There's a lot of confusion in our profession, and I've seen some people say that an EDRMS can't manage physical objects. Okay, and I got a client that we proved it. What do you call? The answer is yes, you can. You know, and like I said in my lecture, an EDRMS, one of the requirement is it should manage physical objects, physical records, as well as paper records. Sorry, physical as well as electronic or digital records or documents. So an EDRMS, it can definitely do that. And I just implemented, this was a client of mine in a golf course. You know, it's a golf club, and it's a small golf club. You know, and when I went there, they I said, what they already have a system. So I said, oh, what system have you got? And they said, oh, we've got a trim. I nearly fell off my chair because trim is a powerful, it's a Rolls-Royce electronic document management system that is used in state government agencies, very big government agencies. And this small little golf club has bought trim. So I was a bit, wow, very, very shocked with that. But then I was brought in there to come up with a solution to manage their archives. And so they are all physical objects, golf clubs, golf balls, paintings, framed photographs, framed pictures, and so on. Some golf blazers and sweaters and so on. So we registered all of that physical object into TRIM, into the electronic document records management system. We took photos of the physical objects. The photos were scanned and put into that, and we described the content, and we said that golf club is sitting in shelf number 3 or in box number 2, whatever it is. So definitely, and this is what a lot I want to see. Remember, an EDRMS should manage the life cycle from creation to destruction or to preservation or permanent retention if it's an archive, right? So why buy another system? So don't ever do that. Don't ever go into an organization and say, oh no, I will use the EDRMS to manage my electronic documents and records, but you, the archives, you have got physical objects, you have to buy an archive management system. No, they don't. The moment you do that, you got 2 different systems. All right. And then you will try to integrate the 2. And why do all that when this EDRMS can manage the archives as well? I've seen many archivists in organizations do this type of things where they say, no, I need a separate archive management system. I need a separate EDRMS. No, you can actually do both in one. Yeah, so don't do that. And I've seen that in Shell too. It's a global organization. We had a library management system. We had already had open text, and then we had library management system as well. So they wanted us to manage the library items in a different system, and the records and documents a different system in open text. And my engineers came and said they're confused. A well completion report, when I finished drilling the well and I put the well report, where do you want me to put? Because the librarian says that is a library material. And then you say that, it's a well completion report, it's a record. So what, you want me to put in the library system and then you want me to put it in the record system? That's too much work. I'm not doing it. So I went to my management and I said, this is confusing them. And when they want to look at, for the well completion report, which system to look at, the library system or the record system? So we said, no, for Shell in Australia, we said we don't want the library system. We only got open text and everything, the library and records and archives all managed in one. So it's less confusion. They know where it is. Yep. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That's enough.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other questions? Mungkin dari panitia? No? Okay. I think there is no more questions, Pauline, so I think I can wrap it up. Mungkin dari pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang ada tadi ya, jadi yang saya simpulkan yang pertama, sebaiknya jangan membangun sendiri aplikasi di RMS, tapi gunakan yang sudah ada, manfaatkan yang sudah ada, karena terlalu kompleks katanya. Terus yang kedua, di RMS juga bisa digunakan untuk paper records ya, bukan hanya untuk digital record juga. Terus kemudian migration isu untuk IDRMS sepertinya sudah bisa ditangani, jadi lebih baik jika tetap pakai sama. Okay. Sorry what that. Kayaknya mungkin tiga itu yang bisa saya simpulkan. So if before we can close it again, maybe I will ask if you have any other question. If not, maybe we can close ya. Udah ya. Okay, I think it's enough. Pauline, thank you so much for today. I hope this is going to be like our first collaboration, or maybe next time we have others collaboration as well, if you don't mind.
Oh no, I'm happy to. Yeah. I'm happy to. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Vivit, and the University of Indonesia for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity. And happy festival time for you. I hear that you're breaking off, and tomorrow you start your Eid celebration. So happy Eid festival for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone. Dan dari panitia mungkin saya kembalikan ke Jehan ya. Jehan silakan. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih banyak kepada Ibu Wiwit dan Ms. Pauline yang telah menjelaskan materi. Semoga apa yang telah disampaikan dapat bermanfaat untuk kita semua. Para hadirin yang saya hormati, kini telah sampai di penghujung kegiatan. Semoga apa yang telah disampaikan ini akan bermanfaat untuk kedepannya. Sebelum saya akhiri, dimohon untuk para hadirin mengisi presensi untuk mendapatkan sertifikat. Link presensi akan diberikan pada kolom chat Zoom. Dimohon untuk presensi, dan selanjutnya untuk para hadirin untuk tetap menyalakan kamera, dan untuk yang belum menyalakan, dimohon untuk menyalakan kamera jika tidak ada kendala jaringan, karena akan dilakukan sesi dokumentasi. Baik.
Pauline, we will have a photo session, so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'll start it. Okay. Slide 1, 2, 2. Okay. Slide 2, 1, 2, 3. Slide 3, 1, 2, 3. Slide 4, 1, 2, 3. Slide 5, 1, 2, 3. Slide 6, 1, 2, 3. Slide 7, 1, 2, 3. Slide 8. Slide 9. Yang terakhir slide 10. Baik, terima kasih. Saya dan segenap panitia mengucapkan terima kasih untuk para hadirin. Jangan lupa untuk mengisi link presensi yang telah dibagikan. Terima kasih kepada Ms. Pauline selaku speaker. Pauline, thank you for the experience and knowledge you provide. It's very useful for us. And Bu Wit selaku moderator dan Bapak Ibu yang telah hadir pada kuliah umum hari ini. Mohon maaf jika ada kesalahan kata dan perbuatan. Sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih dan sampai jumpa. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, see you. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Pauline.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Pauline.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Miss.
Yeah. Bye-bye.